trial underway. Stormy says that she spanked Donald Trump. He liked it. I assume he did. So here it is.
It was just remarkable to see how Trump was reacting as Stormy Daniels was testifying. And as you noted, going into those explicit details about how they met, he was kind of grimacing at points when she talked about, what he said about Melania Trump. The only time she was brought up, that he noted to her that she said they did not even sleep in the same bedroom. He had a scowl on his face for most of the time, but he was paying attention, Jake. There was no period for a sustained amount of time where he was closing his eyes like we've seen in other instances as this trial has been going on. He was paying very close attention. At one point that seemed to be mouthing denials when she was telling stories about that night they met. There were points where it seemed uncomfortable for her to talk about, what it was like, and it was just so intense in the room. I think that's why really no one was laughing at her jokes. I think there is a real question of how the jury perceived her and how they believed her. The one thing, Jake, though, that I do think will be hard for Donald Trump to do going forward is to deny having any kind of encounter with Stormy Daniels.
With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show. Put up the picture full mass. Stormy Daniels and Spanky. Adult film star Stormy Daniels dished out salacious details of her alleged sexual encounter with former President Donald Trump in 2006 from the witness stand on Tuesday, describing how they met at a celebrity golf tournament and what she says happened when she went to Trump's Lake Tahoe hotel room. She also told jurors about when she spanked Trump. Now listen, I hate to say it this way, but this is what the woman said, quote, right on the butt, end quote. I know that's a horrible visual. I'm so sorry, everybody. With a copy of his own magazine. Daniels then said that after she went to the bathroom, she emerged to find Trump on the hotel bed in his boxers and a t-shirt. It gets worse. At first, quote, at first, I was just startled, like a jump scare. I wasn't expecting someone to be there, especially minus a lot of clothing, she testified. She said that Trump stood up between me and the door, not in a threatening manner. He didn't come at me. He didn't rush me, nothing like that. Daniel said she blacked out while they had sex. Quote, I had my clothes and my shoes off. I removed my bra. We were in missionary positioning, quote, very graphic. Now, there are some people saying, well, this is too much information. At one point, the judge actually said that he was surprised the defense, meaning Trump's attorneys, did not object more, which is basically saying, hey, your attorneys failed you. They should have objected to some other stuff. They didn't. They were trying to object to the things that are clearly relevant, like the sexual encounter. Why is that relevant? Because the whole case is about what? Did Donald Trump pay hush money because he had a sexual affair, sexual encounter with Stormy Daniels, and he needed her not to talk about their relationship? So it goes directly to the actual case. There's no way you object that out of the court because of what this is about. There's more. So in a mostly casual and conversational tone, Daniels recounted details from the courts and furniture in Trump's hotel room to the contents of his toiletry kit in the bathroom. At one point in court, Daniels threw back her arm and lifted her leg in the witness box to recreate the moment she says Trump posed on his hotel bed for her, stripped down to his undergarments. Justin Juan Merchant called Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, to a sidebar during a midday break to say that Trump was, quote, cursing audibly and possibly intimidating Daniels, who had begun testifying. According to a trial script, quote, I understand that your client is upset at this point, Merchant said to the defense attorney, according to the transcript, quote, but he is cursing audibly and he is shaking his head visually, and that's contemptuous. It has the potential to intimidate the witness, and the jury can see that. Now, once again, I got an issue with this judge. Judge, when was the last time you allowed somebody to curse audibly in your courtroom and you said nothing to them directly? You sidebarred the attorneys. You have the right to talk directly to the defendant. You're the judge. The reason why this action is problematic beyond the ego is because it does act as an intimidation factor to witnesses. And it could act as an intimidation factor to members of the jury. You have to remember, the judge's real power, real authority, is to make sure there's no conflict with the judicial processes. The reason why the judge has this amazing authority known as contempt, you can put a contempt charge on someone, is to ensure that the judicial processes work properly. Donald Trump has tested this at every single turn. There's more. But some of the details Daniels described were so explicit that Judge Juan Merchant was like, all right, that's enough. Okay, we got it. He had to cut her off. And Trump's lawyers argued that Daniels had unfairly prejudiced the jury, asking Merchant to declare a mistrial. That's a mistake. The judge denied the request, but added that some of the details from Daniels were, quote, better left unsaid. No, tell it all. Tell all of it. This is a sex case. You understand what I'm saying? If this was a murder case, you would describe the murder. This is a sex case. There's more. Crucially, however, Daniels also testified about the interest that Trump paid, and his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, seemed to have had in buying her story after the Access Hollywood tape came out just before the 2016 election. The adult film star will be back on the witness stand when the trial resumes Thursday. Trump's attorney, Susan Nicholas, will resume the cross-examination of Daniels following nearly 90 minutes of tense Q&A on Tuesday. In another case involving Trump, the Georgia Court of Appeals will consider an effort by Donald Trump and his co-defendants to disqualify DA Fani Willis. I mean, she remains on trial. I have not seen a DA remain on trial during the trial of prosecuting one person. So they want to remove her, and now she is facing another tribunal, basically. In a brief order Wednesday, the court said it will hear the appeal from Trump and others challenging the ruling from Judge Scott McAfee that allowed Willis to remain on the case. No trial date has been set in the election subversion conspiracy case against Trump in Georgia, and the decision to consider the appeal is another sign that pre-trial efforts to delay a trial are succeeding. Florida. Judge Cannon has now indefinitely postponed former President Donald Trump's classified documents trial in Florida, citing significant issues around classified evidence that would need to be worked out before the federal criminal case goes to a jury. Now, if you remember, when this case was first brought, I said on Indisputable, I don't know how they will figure out a way to discuss classified information when members of the jury and the judge are not able to know what the classified information is. They will have to figure that part out. Either it becomes magically declassified through some action of the current president, that's Biden, or you give the members of the jury top secret clearance in order to be read into the classification document, which would be unheard of. So they got to figure it out. So in an order on Tuesday, Cannon canceled the May trial date and did not set a new date while Trump was in criminal court Tuesday for his hush money trial in New York. Cannon's move means there are no trial dates currently set for the other three criminal cases against him, but indefinitely postponing the classified documents trial. Cannon's order pushes it closer to the 2024 election and potentially afterward, which naturally he'll just preemptively pardon himself and claim that it's legal and just and right, et cetera. But I don't know, we don't know if Jack Smith has already worked out the details of this legal precedent that's happening. But we do know the judge obviously feels as if it's not good enough, at least currently. So I don't know what the hell will happen in the federal classified case. All right, Yasmin, it's a lot of twists and turns. I told you Donald Trump would be a defendant until the day he dies in some fashion.
I mean, it's looking that way for sure. Yeah, Trump has a lot that he's dealing with right now. And according to reports, he's not really handling it very well. He's not in charge of the situation. He's coping at best, right?
Yeah.
And his whole thing with all of these cases against him, not just with the current hush money trial in New York, but his whole thing is that this is Joe Biden's doing. Joe Biden is trying to incriminate and imprison his political opponent as if this was a third world country, and those are his words, not mine. The Stormy Daniels testimony, though, was difficult for the people in the room to listen to because she detailed under oath, mind you, exactly what happened between Daniels and Trump in that penthouse back in 2006. And as you pointed out, the most Trump's defense attorneys tried to do was claim that the testimony was not relevant to the actual case, but the judge let it continue. Now, after the fact, they're trying to say that this is cause for a mistrial, but as you also pointed out, that's not really how these things work. A big part of Trump's argument with this hush money case is that he and Daniels were never intimate also. So the reason why this testimony was allowed to continue was because in her testifying, she's refuting Trump's premise that they were never intimate, thereby providing the jury with a reason as to why Trump would have wanted to pay her the hush money in the first place. And it is important to clarify that Daniels has not accused Trump of any kind of sexual abuse or assault, but she did say that the encounter was quote unquote unwanted. And she did say that she was ashamed that she did not tell him no at the time. And that said, a lot of her details of her encounter with him are reminiscent of E. Jean Carroll's encounters with him. Even the spanking, which is a funny detail, Daniels said it was done in her attempt to ease some of the tension in the room, but both women have said that the flirtation quickly turned unwanted, to use Stormy's words. So Trump has his work cut out for him, even with these potential wins in Atlanta and Miami. But in Florida, I wouldn't be surprised to see Judge Cannon eventually taken off the case. And this move, this most recent move I heard, that might kind of speed things up a little bit.
Yeah, we shall see. Hoping so. But if Trump gets convicted for one felony, there's an issue now because you can't vote in most states, obviously, with a felony conviction and currently serving that probated or parole sentence. How can you run for political office if you're unable to even vote in those states? Something that a court will have to decide if he gets convicted here.